My guest this evening is a professional ballet dancer. We did a virtual interview for her company, Olympic Ballet Theatre, and I wanted to talk to her about her talents here on Alice TV. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Rowan Catel.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Rowan. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Pretty good. Hanging out, having a relaxing evening.
Relaxing is good. Relaxing is good. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight and talk about your dance background and things that are going on currently and all of that. And for every guest that I've had, it's been, this is just an unprecedented time. So some things that they're used to doing, they couldn't do. If that's a film actor to a musician, obviously like with Alice, they would be on tour right now in clubs. That's not happening. So we're doing everything virtual. How have you been holding up during the pandemic?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I was super honored that you reached out. Very thankful. But I think with everyone, the pandemic for me has kind of been like different cycles of productivity and different waves of different emotions. I've gotten to spend a lot more time connecting with some friends lifelong friends that I kind of lost contact with due to my work schedule, both dance and otherwise, and some time to get a little bit closer with my family, which has been awesome as well. Some of my youngest siblings, my baby sister is 11 years younger than me, so a little bit of an age gap, and it's been nice to spend a little bit more time with her. I moved away from my parents' home when I was 19, so 6 years ago. So it's a big period of growth for a child she's 14 now, so she would have been 8. So it's kind of exciting to see her grow up a little bit more. But yes, I think the pandemic's been interesting. I've been mostly focusing on friends and family. I would say arts is definitely a part of my life, and I love it. And I've learned some new talents. I learned embroidery, which was so fun. I made my cat a bandana. But it's been a little bit harder to dance at home in an apartment. But I've gotten to watch a lot of performances virtually. A lot of companies are doing that, which is awesome. Very inspiring. Excited to one day get back.
Yeah, I just remind me of that. Your cat is Gizmo, correct?
Yes. Very appropriate name for this time of year.
Yeah, because I remember Gizmo made a few appearances during the fun table that Carlos was a part of.
She probably will tonight too. She just ate a little bit, but I'm sure she'll beg me for more food in a minute. Me sitting down at the dining room table is like a sign for her that it's time to eat. And that's where I'm sitting today, as my apartment is torn apart. We move in a week, so we'll see. I'm sure she'll come up and make an appearance.
And then, so it sounds like Gizmo is named after a Gremlins character?
Inadvertently, but yes. I didn't realize so much at the time, but I definitely watched the movie like a month before I got her, so yes.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I'm so old that I saw Gremlins in the theater.
I miss going to movie theaters. My hometown has a drive-in, and I wish Seattle had like a permanent drive-in. This summer they had like movies at Marimore Park, which I think they generally do over the summer, but unfortunately I didn't get to go to. But I like the old school like drive-in movie experience where you all have like the little levels that you park on and you get to go have snacks in between the two movies. Yes, that's something I wish Seattle had.
Yeah, no, I think back to, and I don't even know where this was located because my parents would take my brother and I when we were younger to a drive-in somewhere. I don't know where it was here, but we'd just be in the back of the car and eventually we'd either fall asleep depending on what the movie was. But I remember we saw, I think, Blazing Saddles, the Mel Brooks film, and I think they even took us to Jaws, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. So this was obviously back in the 70s. And but yeah, just that experience of either a drive-in or just having the option to go somewhere safely. So even like, I think in Washington, they said, was it like 25% capacity for theaters if they want to open? But I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to chance anything at this point.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I've been back to work for this last month or two here, at least in the service industry. And I feel like I'm around enough people serving and hosting and um, with food in general that like that's probably my capacity for being around people. I don't need to go and expose myself in my leisure and free time. I think I get enough at work.
Yeah, no, I would be thinking, and actually am thinking the exact same way, that as I do some survival things to make ends meet right now, it's like this is more than enough for me in terms of, especially what I see, because sometimes people aren't being maybe as cautious as I would be. So I'm like, yeah, that's enough. Just like you said it perfectly. I'm not going to choose in my leisure time to expose myself to even more possibilities. I'll kind of wait till things maybe kind of look a little bit better.
Yeah, like I'm trying to be very positive about it, but also very realistic. The restaurant I work at has really good safety measures in place, so that's great. But unfortunately, I have been playing the role of host, and so I get to be that buffer. And it's been an interesting mix of people. Some people seem far more concerned than others, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying, because I've been dealing with the public. So yeah, I see some people coming toward me, and then you're instructed like what you can or cannot say regarding like mask wear and that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do my job, and they can't see me smile because I'm wearing a mask.
I know. I feel like I'm always making faces at, like, pleasant expressions. Like people will walk by the street and I'll smile at them. And then I'm like, oh, just kidding. Spots there. They know what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, no, I've again, it's the same type of thing. I saw somebody I hadn't seen in a while. Yeah, and so I'm smiling and I'm waving at them, but it's just like, yeah, there's there's nothing for them to know other than maybe the glowing from my eyes or something.
Right. I feel like my eyebrows are pretty expressive, but like my eyes not so much. And so I'm like, can you read my eyebrows? Can you read my happy eyebrow language?
Eyebrow language. That's a good one.
You know.
So hey, let's even though we're everyone's doing what they need to do during this time, and everyone understands that. As I've been saying to all my guests, no one's at their best right now during a pandemic. Period. I don't care who you are, and but let's go back pre-pandemic, because I want to talk about all the good things with your dance career and Olympic Ballet Theatre. And so let's go back to the beginning about when did you first get involved with dance and ballet? I mean, how old were you?
So I feel like for a female, I started at the pretty standard age. I started at 5, which a lot of female dancers find themselves starting at. Um, when you're that young, you have like ballet tap combo classes. And really, ballet class was for me like you go in and you have maybe 10 minutes of seriousness, and then you got to dance with scarves for like 20 minutes. And I remember like we had to tie them certain ways to go with the record that my teacher would play. And there at one point we got to be like a pirate, and then we got to be a butterfly, and I was all about it. I thought it was the best thing ever. Like scarf dance to this day holds a tender place in my heart.
Awesome. And so you started off at 5, and then so how did things develop for you?
So I started off at 5, and then I think probably around age 8 or 9, ballet starts becoming like a set class where it's generally about 45 minutes to an hour. And I started doing jazz around that time, as well as like lyrical, which is like lyric-based movement. And really liked kind of the expanded vocabulary. I think jazz is really fun. You get to be like kind of sassy, and it's a very also kind of classical form of dance in the sense that it does have like a very set history. And then I started dancing competitively for a little bit. I got to perform with like the Seattle Storm, which was super cool. I was a big fan of the Seattle Storm as a kid. And so that was like a big moment in my life. And then at 13, I started dancing on point, which I had waited my entire childhood for. Dancing on point is when you get like the toe shoes and it's painful, but it's amazing. It's so much fun. Like, the pain is worth it. I'm probably crazy for saying that, but I feel like most dancers would agree. Yeah, and then I kept kind of dancing competitively until I was about 16, and I broke my foot, so I took a year off. I danced for a little bit again towards the end of high school, and then hurt myself again. Went to community college for a year, danced for a basketball team for a year, and then actually went to Cornish College for about a year and a half. I think it was a really good experience, and I think I grew a lot as a person there, but it was one of those kind of times where the art I was creating, I wasn't very happy with. And I think as an artist, you have to really be proud and confident and happy in your work. If that's going to be like your form of expression and your outlet, you should be happy with what you're putting forward. I also had a little bit of another reason for leaving. But yes, I was there for a year and a half, took another year off, kind of danced independently, did some summer intensives, which is like a 6-week course, usually with either ballet company or a really large school. And then gave it one last shot. I was like, I'm just going to audition as much as I can possibly afford and as much as I have time for. Generally, there's a little bit of an audition fee. And then ended up getting into Olympic Ballet, and have been there for 3 years, and I loved it. I actually almost went to school in the Netherlands for dance instead, but I was offered the position at Olympic, and it was nice to be close to home and nice to be in a small company. And I really, really enjoyed my fellow dancers and the directors. Our repertory was fun as well. I haven't done classical ballet ever, really. Like I said, I grew up doing like jazz and lyrical and ballet, so it was never super ballet focused. We did like the Nutcracker every year, but I feel like most schools do the Nutcracker every year. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. My dance journey has been an off and on one, I guess, since high school, but I'm happy to have found some success in it. I didn't really think I would, but yes, I think I would have some success. There's been moments of doubt. And so it's nice to like be able to say for the rest of my life that I dance professionally. Like, that's an accomplishment I'll keep with me, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing your dance history. And there's definitely parts in there that I don't think we covered in the interview back in August with OBT. And so for people out there, I did get a chance to talk with Rowan for the company that she dances for, but that was for the company. So if you're like, well, Mark, I didn't see that on Alice TV, or I didn't see that on Eclectic Arts, well, there's a reason why, because it wasn't for either one of these two platforms. But you mentioned that it was a big deal when you got to dance with the Storm. Was that for like a halftime thing, or is that actually their dance troupe?
No, it was just a halftime show. When I was younger, I was like, maybe I'll be part of their dance troupe, but never ended up auditioning as an adult. I thought about auditioning for the Seagals, yes. But ultimately was not quite in line with what I wanted for myself. So didn't end up even going through with the audition process. But yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that too is that I was a courtside season ticket holder for about 10 years with the Storm. So what year were you doing the halftime thing? Because there may be a chance I saw you and just didn't know it back then.
I want to say it would have either been in 2000, somewhere between like 2003 and 2005.
Okay. The first games I went to was in 2003, and then I started doing the season ticket holder thing in 2004. So there's a chance that
seen us.
what a small world, because I was like majorly into them at the beginning of the season. So like 2004, 5, 6. I mean, we didn't miss a game, every playoff game, all that kind of stuff. And I absolutely loved it. And for those people out there that don't know who the Seattle Storm are, they're the world champion WNBA for this year, which is their 4th title. So it's the women's professional basketball league that's aligned with the NBA. So that's who the Seattle Storm are. And they're amazing athletes and an amazing organization. And I'm not biased at all saying that.
I still have my Sue Bird jersey from when I was like 10. I can almost squeeze into it. I refuse to give it up.
That's a lot better than me. I don't know if I can fit into anything that I had from 2004, but
I
I
was,
still have.
yeah. I was such a tiny child too. Like I remember doctors used to say, if you get to 5 foot, it's going to be a miracle. And now I'm like 5'6.5", so I did really well. But yes, I'm impressed. I think I got it big. I think basketball jerseys are also meant to fit big, so I would say there are a lot of factors that play into that.
Okay. And what are some things that, I mean, like you said, you were studying jazz and lyrical and ballet, and then, the focus became more like classical ballet when you were with OBT. Um, for somebody out there that hasn't gone any kind of route, doesn't have any kind of dance background, or some of you pulled them off the street and you had to explain to them, some of the trials and tribulations that dancers go through to perfect their craft, what kind of things would you tell them?
I think the biggest one is just the time dedication. Growing up with dancing, generally by the age of like 13, 14, you end up taking minimum 3 ballet classes a week. But I think for me personally, I was taking 5 ballet classes a week by the time that I was 14. And a typical ballet class is an hour and a half. And then I was competing on top of it. And so I would have another hour-long class every single day of a different style. And then generally you would rehearse on top of that as well. Saturdays would be all day for the competition team I was a part of, and Sundays would be all day for whatever ballet we were doing. So oftentimes, especially during high school, I would get permission from my teachers and I would leave class about 15 minutes early to drive a half an hour to ballet class. And then I would be at ballet from 4, usually until about 8 or 9 p.m., and then drive the half hour back home and have to eat and shower and then do the homework I was doing. And in high school, I took a lot of AP classes, which generally are about an hour worth of homework each. And so during that time, I think I was sleeping about 2 hours a night, which is also possibly why I injured myself. But yeah, the biggest one is the time commitment for sure. I think you have to be a certain kind of crazy to really want to be a dancer. I think craziness and passion are oftentimes confused as well. So there's that. But I didn't go to high school football games. I didn't hang out with my friends after school. The clubs I was a part of in high school were only ones that I was a part of when I injured myself and couldn't dance. But oftentimes you are wanted at rehearsals even when you're injured. So yeah, it's a busy life for sure.
Yeah, no, that's everything you were describing. And especially I have to remind myself about that age when you're in high school of what your capacity is, in terms of being able to deal with things, even not just like on a a friend basis, peer-to-peer basis, and let alone having a schedule that's like from the crack of dawn with school to all of this training, and then coming home and doing homework and everything else, that your day's just completely full.
I lucked out and I had a couple teachers who also were artists before they were teachers. And so I remember like my English teacher, my sophomore year of high school, was very understanding the couple times I did turn in projects late, as long as I gave him like a hard deadline of, if I can just have 2 more days, like I promise to turn this in. And so I think I've had a lot of really good opportunities or things to be thankful for along that path. People who a lot of help, definitely, and a lot of support from my family as well. Both my parents are artists, and so they wanted us to do it as best as we possibly could. But at the same time, if school was not something that we wanted to do, like I never wanted to be a mathematician, they supported us committing ourselves to dance as long as we were doing well in both. You had to do well, you couldn't fail. But they understood like that I didn't want a conventional life for myself. So it was nice to have that support from my family for sure.
Yeah, that sounds really fortunate. I don't know how many people I've talked to, not so much guest interviews, but just in my regular life, that don't have or didn't have that support. So then they ended up on a path that maybe they weren't happy with, what they're doing or with themselves, and then eventually kind of came back around to doing what they want to do or what have you. And sometimes they never come back around. It's just like, because there's such a pressure of like, you must do this, and if you don't, then we're not going to be very happy with you. We'll be disappointed with you. And I'm pretty similar that I had a balance between the artistic things with my family supporting, and then also being realistic too, of like, you do need an education.
A little bit important.
Yeah. So, mark your dreams of being on MTV in the 80s, maybe that's going to happen or maybe it's not. So kind of have both things going for you, and just kind of, again, find that balance. And if something takes off, great. But if it doesn't, you've got something there that you can still, cultivate and work with, that'll sustain you.
Today's theme is balance.
Yes, as we were talking pre-show, like I said during my introduction today, I'm trying to find some balance during this time, because my life's kind of going all kind of wonky directions, but it'll come back together eventually. And so, what are some of the things just off the top of your head that you just really love about not only dance but the arts world in general?
Off the top of my head, I really like, especially from dance, the sense of discipline it's given me. I think it's given me a really good work ethic and helped me succeed outside of the arts a lot with other occupations. But the art world in general, I'm just so happy that it's so accepting. I think I can be very, very hard on myself and put these weird boundaries that only I'm enforcing. And so as I've grown a little bit older, I'm trying to be a little bit more flexible with myself, and being surrounded by artists. I think especially in Seattle, there's a large artist community, has really helped me be a little bit tamer on myself and give myself a little bit more leeway and figure out who I am. And that who I am can be whatever I am in that moment. And that's been really nice. I don't think I would be half the person I am today without the arts. So.
Okay, no, that's wonderful. I think same thing that it's come up more than once. It actually came up in my interview on Monday that I don't know where I would be had I not got into music and then photography and writing and all these other kind of things, and managed somehow in a weird way to sustain this stuff very organically. That it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
You couldn't burn it out of me. I mean, it's just there.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's one of those too, like, yes, I am a dancer and that is a huge part of my life. But if you're an artistic person, like, you write, you take pictures, you create. There's been so many different periods in my life where, like, I was on a poetry kick, and then I took sculpture in college, and I did photography for a long time. And it's nice to just have so many different outlets for what fits for you in that moment, and know that there'll always be something.
Yeah, no, I agree that I think that artistic minded mentality, that it could be even something, for all I know, a month from now, I start getting interested in something that I haven't done before, just because I'll be naturally curious about it. It's like, yeah, maybe I've never done pottery, or I haven't really focused on like nonfiction or fiction writing or poetry or something. And that part of my brain will just say, well, let's kind of go down that road and see what happens with it, instead of like saying no to it. It's going to be very accepting of it.
Yeah, I think artists are very naturally curious. It definitely got me in a little bit of trouble when I was a kid. I was questioning too much. My mom was like, stop asking me questions all of the time. She's like, you were always like, why? Why is this way? Why is it this way? But I do think it's good. I mean, it gives you a lot of knowledge over a broad spectrum of things. I would love to, as I get older, focus in a little bit more and have a larger knowledge of some things I hold more dear. But I mean, everything comes with time.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of time, that 30 minutes went by really, really quick.
Yeah.
Goodness. Well, Rowan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And like you were mentioning earlier, it's absolutely my pleasure to have you on the show and be a part of the guests here. So I wish you nothing but success with everything that you do, not just artistically, just everything that you're doing in life right now. And I look forward to hopefully eventually having you rejoin me for a non-interview, meaning a fun table session down the road, because we've kind of talked about that. And we'll kind of go from there. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. All the good energy towards you, well wishes, everything. I feel like you worded it way better than I can. So I don't want to be like right back at you. It doesn't feel genuine, but I genuinely wish the best for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Rowan. And yeah, have a good night and stay safe out there. And hopefully I'll get a chance to meet up with you again sooner than later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.